All right, we have this story from the Associated Press. Starbucks said Thursday it's closing hundreds of stores in the US, Canada, and Europe and laying off 900 non retail employees as it focuses more of its resources on a turnaround. The Seattle coffee giant said store closures would start immediately. Starbucks said affected baristas will be offered severance packages and transfers to other locations where possible. The company wouldn't give a number of stores that are closing, but the bulk of the closures appear to be in the US and Canada. Starbucks said it expects to have 18,300 North American locations when its fiscal year ends on Sunday. As of June 29th, the company had 18,734 locations. So there's about 400 plus locations they're getting rid of. In a research note Thursday, TD Cowen analyst Andrew Charles estimated Starbucks will close around 500 North American stores in its fiscal fourth quarter. In a letter to employees in Europe, Starbucks chairman and CEO Brian Nicole said some locations in the UK, Austria, and Switzerland will also be closing. Starbucks didn't say how many stores will be impacted on those nations either. Starbucks said it will notify non-retail employees whose positions are being eliminated early Friday. Starbucks asked employees who can work from home to do so on Thursday and Friday. How the hell do you work from home at Starbucks? Okay, whatever. In a letter sent to employees Thursday, Nichols said a review of the company's stores identified locations where the company doesn't see a path to financial stability or isn't able to create the physical environment customers expect. Those stores are being closed. Each year, we open and close coffee houses for a variety of reasons. From financial performance to lease expirations, Nicole wrote. This is a more significant action that we understand will impact partners and customers. Our coffee houses are centers of the community, and closing any location is difficult. Starbucks said it expects to spend $1 billion on the restructuring, including $150 million on employee separation benefits and $850 million related to the physical store closing and the cost of exiting leases. Starbucks share fell 1% Thursday. It was not immediately clear how many of the stores that are closing are unionized. Workers at 650 company-owned U.S. Starbucks stores have voted to unionize since 2021, but they have yet to reach a contract agreement with the company. That's crazy as hell. It's been 4 years and they still can't get the agreement. Starbucks Workers United, the labor group organizing workers, said Thursday that the closures were made without input from Starbucks baristas. The union said it intends to engage in bargaining at every union-represented store that is closing to ensure workers can be placed at another store they prefer. Fixing what's broken at Starbucks isn't possible without centering the people who engage with the company's customer day in and day out, the union said. News of the store closures arrived just over a week after unionized employees in 3 states sued Starbucks over its new dress code, saying the company refused to reimburse workers who had to buy new clothes. Starbucks said it used a consistent set of criteria to determine the stores that are closing, and union representation wasn't a factor. Oh yeah, I'm sure. Starbucks will end its 2025 fiscal year with 124 North American stores from its previous fiscal year. It's rare for Starbucks to shrink its store count during a fiscal year. Starbucks plans to increase its North American store count in its next fiscal year, Nichols said. The company said also plans to redesign more than 1,000 locations in the next 12 months to give them a warmer, more welcoming feeling. This is the second round of layoffs at Starbucks this year. In February, Nicole announced the layoffs of 1,100 corporate employees globally and eliminated several hundred open positions. At the time, Nicole said Starbucks needed to operate more efficiently and increase accountability for decisions. Nicole is a turnaround specialist who was brought into Starbucks a year ago this month to give the brand a jolt. Under Nicole's leadership, the struggling Chipotle chain, where Nicole was CEO for about 6 years, essentially doubled its revenue and its profit, and its stock price soared. In July, Starbucks reported its 6th straight quarter of lower same-store sales as weaker U.S. traffic continued to be a drain on the company. Nicole is trying to turn it around by adding staff, making stores cozier, and introducing software that helps prioritize orders and make sure customers can get their drink within 4 minutes. Sorry I started coughing. I guess a lot of these companies and people losing their jobs make me sick. Now, if you go on Twitter, you'll see that people are saying that these lack of sales have to do with an ongoing boycott that's been taking place for over a year after Starbucks sued Workers United. after, and that labor union posted pro-Palestine messages, so the inference was that they were taking the side of Israel. I think that was a factor, right? I think that they were trying to appeal to the side that they thought was, I shouldn't even say thought was right. More so, they were trying to appeal to the group where they felt the money was with, right? Because if you look at most of these different businesses and rich people, they tend to side with Israel. So they figured they were keeping in with the in crowd by aligning with the wrong group, and it came back to play a factor in the continued lower sales that they're seeing. I again think that's a factor. But ask yourself, we talk about the fact that most Americans live paycheck to paycheck, can't afford $1,000 emergency, and with all the types of sacrifices that people are making just to survive, do you really think they have the money to go and just buy, what is it, $6, $7, $8 cups of coffee every day, every week? Like, I remember there was a period, I believe it was either last year or the year before last year, where I was going to Starbucks once a week, and then I stopped. I said, why am I sitting here paying out, what is that, $28 a month just for 4 drinks? It didn't make sense to me. And I really cannot remember the last time I went to one of those. So what I'm getting at is, it might have been a factor, the whole, anti-Palestine thing, because a lot of younger people go to Starbucks, and a lot of those younger people who saw and heard about that union getting sued did not like that crap, and rightfully sided with the group that is on the side of humanity and just decency. But you also have to get into the economic factor of, you guys sell drinks that a lot of people, myself included, think are overpriced, and you got the price of this stuff just keeps going up and up and up, to where a lot of us are like, okay, well, you know what, I can get cheaper coffee from other places. I'm not gonna keep putting up with this. I mean, the last few times I got coffee, and it's been pretty rare because it's far from my favorite drink. We've had a lot of hot days over here, which have made it to where I don't really crave it as much as I used to. But the last, I'd say 20 or 30 times I bought coffee from somewhere, where the gas station, where you can get a cup for about it's always under $3. Even if you get one of those really large cups, that's about the same size as some you get from Starbucks. So there's also the economic factor of, is this worth the price that they're putting it at? And for a lot of people, that's a no. And what's really funny is when you sit here and you listen to what Nickel was saying, oh, we're trying to make it to where people can get their drinks delivered to them in less than 4 minutes. It's like, look, you can make the service as fast as you want. You could hire Sonic the Hedgehog for all we care. But if what you're selling in the eyes of the consumer is a ripoff, is simply not worth the price of admission, people are going to keep saying, to hell with this. By the way, I feel bad for anyone that actually believes that the unions representing the different Starbucks, right, that wasn't a factor in terms of which ones they're closing down. Like, knowing what unions can do to a company, when it comes to like the mistreatment of workers, I think it's pretty nasty to tell someone on Friday, hey, you might not have a job in 3 days. That's pretty tacky. So what I'm thinking happened is they're probably going after the ones that aren't because, like I said, employers hate unions because they don't want the workers to have any kind of rights. They want to be able to hire you and fire you whenever they feel like it, just cause. Too bad, tough crap. And when unions are in the way of that, they're going to try to find ways around it. So they probably went to the ones that don't have any representation and are first trying to get rid of them before they have to come to blows with, the ones that are actually represented by somebody. And there's this idea of me as this person that hates corporations. I don't necessarily despise them simply for existing. If Starbucks lowered the prices of their drinks, cut it in about half, right? Let's say a large is like $3. If it actually gave its employees full-time, consistent hours, even if it hired less people, if it gave them full-time hours and benefits, if it didn't force them to suddenly have to wear all black after letting them wear a much brighter variety of clothes and then not reimburse them for that, those clothes that they had to buy afterward. If it did any of these things, along with either staying neutral in the Israel-Hamas conflict or coming out on the side of Palestine, then we would have almost no issue with them. But again, it's those factors that your trash coffee costs too goddamn much. You treat your employees like trash, and now your returns are in the trash, the gutter. I really would like to see, and I don't think this will happen, but I would like to see Starbucks abandon its wicked ways, and do the various things I've outlined here. But if they're not willing to change, then I hope they go the way of Blockbuster. I hope we hear every couple of months about Starbucks having to lay off this many people, close down this many stores. Because why should we sit here and tolerate genocide-loving, overpriced coffee places? Like, where does that fit in American society? What good are we benefited by adhering to places like that?